Hello, this is my vlog 2. I will be discussing the skills and capacities for acceleration phase of sprinting and a goalkeeper agility drill. The skill is the athlete's ability to control movement efficiently, whereas a capacity issue is the ability of the body to fulfill a movement task. Often with athletes there is a lot of crossover between skills and capacities, but generally speaking, a skill is the athlete's ability to control the movement efficiently, whereas a capacity results in the restriction of the athlete to perform the movement task. Both, however, do interact with each other. Athlete 1 has skill-related issues during acceleration of sprinting. He's an attacking player and he can run at a top speed of 9.72 meters per second. When we break down the start of his acceleration, we notice that he starts a sprint from a standing position with a forward lean. This allows a tension to be created for his first push-off. We can then see with each step his stride length and frequency increases. He starts with an aggressive forward lean, but this is more from the hips. He does extend at the torso with each step, allowing him to get into a good running posture for high-speed running and sprinting. However, this forward lean allows his centre of mass to fall in front of his touchdown foot, allowing positive net impulse with good acceleration. As he gets into his stride, his centre of mass is in alignment with his touchdown foot. As we pause the video here, the player should be driving his left foot down on the green line. Instead, he delays the drive and drives down on the red. This delay results in lost time that the foot can utilise ground reaction force from being on the floor. When his foot is on the floor, he shows good ankle stiffness. This stiffness allows the tendons to work as springs. However, if we look at his swing-through leg, his foot cycles high rather than working like a piston and driving down. The front and back views show that he sways side to side and his feet are externally rotated. This is to maintain ground contact time and increase ground reaction force, and is an important aspect of the acceleration phase of sprinting. If we look at the breakdown of the running drills, we can see good ankle stiffness, which allows force transmission through the whole body chain. We can also see a near 45-degree foot drive in acceleration. We want a lower foot recovery in a piston action. Once coached on this aspect, the athlete is then able to implement this into his running exercise drill. Because I felt the lean was coming from the hips, I gave the athlete a sledge push, with emphasis on positive shin angle, stiff ankles, piston action in driving the foot down, and of course an extended posture. Finally, to encourage foot drive, a banded standard foot drive was given. Athlete 2 has a capacity related issue during the acceleration phase of sprinting. This player is a defending player with a top speed of 9.1 meters per second. When we break down his acceleration, he initiates his start from a false step. He has a forward lean with a positive shin angle. His body is directed horizontally and vertically in the direction of the desired movement. His centre of mass falls anterior to his striking foot. This limits any braking forces to allow acceleration and momentum to occur. His stride length starts shorter and lengthens as he gets into his stride. This athlete does not flex at the hips so well. This limits his ability to generate force downwards as he is starting from a less advantageous position. Because of this, he has a lower leg swing through. However, this is still in a cyclic motion rather than a piston action. After the athlete's first step, he starts to lean forwards and he rocks around his thoracic spine. He does extend as the speed increases. He has reduced shoulder extension after his first step. Asymmetry of arm swinging can prevent him generating speed. Posterior view reveals a right hip drop, especially when the right leg swings through. I believe he is doing this to create a larger leg lever to generate force in an upwards direction. If we look at his ankles at contact with the floor, he doesn't have any ankle stiffness to manage the ground reaction force. Anterior view shows the right leg crossing the midline. As we pause the video, we can see the forces are directed obliquely. During air walks and skips, the athlete requires a forward head movement to help gain end of range movement. From an anterior view, you can see his hip hitches. As the difficulty of the task increases, he has an increased forward head motion, which is exaggerated. He has a negative Trendelenburg sign. During calf raises, there is a distinct lack of the ability to single heel raise with quality. Double leg hops shows a reduced capacity to manage ground reaction forces at the ankles, thus losing the ability to use force and aid in the horizontal and vertical propulsion in acceleration. Reduced ankle stiffness can also be seen during a wall run. He requires knee flexion extension movements to aid in the leg drive, and he uses a torso to help generate movement. When the task becomes more ballistic, it is clear that the right ankle and Achilles complex is unable to function as an effective spring. Exercise to help will be working in an inner range hip flexion position with no compensatory movements. Pogo jumps to help the Achilles tendon unit function as a spring. General calf raises will increase the overall strength in the calf complex. And finally, box drives and progressive box drives into a jump will help both with hip flexion, driving into the floor, and training the Achilles and calf complex to work as a spring to utilise the ground reaction forces to increase acceleration. Athlete 3 has a skill-related issue during goalkeeper turning off the post drill. He is a reserve team goalkeeper with a 505 score of 4.54 seconds, which is combined. For reference for this task, the goalkeeper needs to turn quickly off their post to take up a position to save a shot on goal. If we break down the agility drill, from a performance point of view, he only covers a small aspect of his goal with his first step. If we compare this to our first team goalkeeper, he steps out nearly twice the distance. So what is the reason for this? If we look at this clip in slow motion, his left leg steps forward and lands in front of his centre of mass in opposite direction that he wants to go. This is good. However, he is trying to rotate on his right leg to open up his body position, and for this reason he doesn't and is unable to generate enough force to take up a big step. He is laterally rotating from an internally rotated position. Again, with reference to our first team goalkeeper, he uses the plant leg to decelerate and change direction. In this next clip, it shows errors in movement. He is trying to rapidly rotate on his right hip, which is fixed to the floor. His head, shoulder and hips do not turn quickly to face the direction of the football. He has no restrictions in movement. We use coaching tips of taking the false step outside his base of support in the opposite direction and then opening out at the hips. Performing the task in this way, he can utilise ground reaction forces with his plant leg, which will allow him to push 180 degrees in the opposite direction. This will then free up the hips, head and shoulders to open out. Improving the skill will take time, but we can already see some crossover from refilming 2 weeks later. He utilises the false step well. He uses the plant leg to push off. This is outside his base of support, and this enables his right leg to rapidly external rotate and open out along with his hips, shoulders and head. This puts him in an advantageous position to save a shot. Athlete 4 is a first team goalkeeper with a capacity issue during the agility task of turning off the post. He has a 505 score of 4.72 seconds. Looking at the movements during the agility drill, his preferred movement strategy is to bounce or jump into his first step. The reason this method is beneficial is it pre-tensions the tendon, allowing explosive movements. However, what is obvious is the athlete is unable to control this bounce. In this clip, as he jumps into the pre-activation step, his left foot does not tolerate ground contact and makes an extra step. Plus, his right knee points in the opposite direction to where he wants to go. The next angle shows upon ground contact, valgus at both knees, thus reducing the force management capabilities on landing. Despite a capacity deficit in controlling landing and deceleration, he is still able to concentrically drive out of his first steps. The weight-bearing foot does not tolerate ground contact. He does this to create more tension and allowing the time on the ground to explode and change direction. His first change of direction step is a large step and it covers a lot of the goal. During pogo jumps, he is unable to manage ground reaction force and loses force potential with knee valgus and ankle lack of stiffness. When we get the athlete to bounce into his goalkeeper set position slowly, the capacity to control ground reaction forces increases. This is because he is able to spend more time on the floor and utilise the force that is available. However, the landing phase still shows a capacity deficit. When he is required to perform the task with high rate of force development, compensation strategies are present. There is definitive ankle collapses into eversion on eccentric control. The same is present on drop landing with excessive knee valgus. Single knee dips are relatively well controlled compared to his jumps. Hip range of movement is not an issue. Jumping from side to side shows reduced capacity to control the landing forces. This capacity deficit in controlling landing affects the ability to change direction because the first foot contact needs to propel the athlete in the direction. However, if the force is lost through poor control, this is going to impact on performance. Finally, an exercise to aid with this capacity issue is to control rapid deceleration on the floor with a double leg stomp. Once double leg is mastered, the athlete can then progress onto single leg and change of direction. To conclude, we can see that the skill aspect of a task can be modified with cues. However, the capacity issues need specific work to allow tissue adaptation to therefore fulfill the movement task.